He only cared about his lover's surgery, but went crazy when he learned she got my heart. Chapter 1: A Marriage of Convenience. Evelyn stood silently in front of the mirror, her reflection staring back at her in her bridal gown. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the veil, masking the sadness in her eyes. This wasn't the wedding she had dreamed of, it was a union of duty, arranged to strengthen ties between their families. Her heart ached knowing Damien's love lay elsewhere, but she had agreed to the marriage, hoping he might someday see her as more than a mere obligation. Damien's face betrayed no emotion as he stood at the altar, watching Evelyn walk toward him. His eyes were distant, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. He had agreed to this marriage only because it was necessary, but his heart had never left Sophia, his first love. As he took Evelyn's hand, his touch was cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth she desperately yearned for. The reception was lavish, attended by family and friends, but Evelyn felt like an outsider in her own celebration. Damien barely stayed by her side, excusing himself often to take calls or disappear altogether. Alone amidst the crowd, Evelyn plastered on a polite smile, hiding her loneliness beneath a composed exterior. Days turned into months, and the distance between them only grew. Damien treated Evelyn with civility but no affection, his attention always focused on Sophia's declining health. Evelyn buried herself in charity work, trying to find purpose and solace in her new role as his wife. The mansion became her sanctuary and prison, its grand halls echoing with silence. One evening, Damien returned home late, his expression troubled. He barely acknowledged Evelyn as he spoke, his voice heavy with concern. "Sophia's condition has worsened," he said. "She needs surgery. I'll do whatever it takes to save her." Evelyn nodded silently, her heart breaking for him and for herself, knowing his love for Sophia was a bond she could never break. Chapter 2: The Decision. Evelyn sat alone in the hospital waiting room, her gaze fixed on Damien as he paced nervously. His anguish was evident as he spoke to the doctors, pleading for options to save Sophia's life. The doctors explained the severity of Sophia's condition. Without a heart transplant, her chances of survival were slim. Damien's desperation deepened, but Evelyn's resolve began to harden. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She thought about Sophia, the woman who had once been like a sister to her. They had grown up together, their bond close until Damien's love for Sophia had driven a wedge between them. Evelyn knew she couldn't stand by and watch Sophia die, especially knowing how much she meant to Damien. The next morning, Evelyn made a life-altering decision. She approached the head surgeon privately and revealed that she was a match for Sophia. "I want to be her donor," Evelyn said with unwavering determination. The doctor hesitated, outlining the risks and implications, but Evelyn's resolve was unshakable. "This is my choice," she said. Preparing for the procedure, Evelyn wrote letters to both Damien and Sophia. In Damien's letter, she poured out her love and her reasons for making the sacrifice. She asked him to cherish Sophia and live a life free of guilt. For Sophia, she expressed her gratitude for the memories they had shared and her wish for Sophia to live a long, happy life. As Evelyn signed the final consent forms, she felt a strange sense of peace. She knew this was the right thing to do, even if it meant she wouldn't be around to see the consequences. Her love for Damien was unselfish, and this final act was the ultimate proof of that love. Chapter 3: The Day of Sacrifice. Evelyn lay on the hospital bed, staring at the sterile white ceiling as the nurses prepared her for surgery. The sound of Damien's voice drifted faintly through the wall, separating their rooms. He was speaking to Sophia, his tone tender and filled with hope. Evelyn's heart ached, but she held on to the belief that her sacrifice would bring them happiness. In the adjacent room, Damien clung to Sophia's hand as she was prepped for her operation. "You'll get through this," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I promise you'll be fine." Sophia smiled weakly, her faith in him unwavering. Neither of them knew that the miracle they were praying for had come at a devastating cost. As Evelyn was wheeled into the operating room, she closed her eyes and whispered a silent goodbye. Memories of her life with Damien played in her mind, moments of quiet longing, unspoken words, and dreams that would never come true. Let him be happy, she prayed, surrendering herself to the anesthesia as the surgical team began their work. Hours later, Sophia's surgery was declared a success. Damien's relief was palpable as the doctor informed him that the transplant had gone smoothly. He rushed to Sophia's side as she was wheeled out of the operating room, her complexion pale but her heartbeat steady. "You did it," he said, his eyes brimming with tears. "You're going to be okay." Sophia's first words were a soft whisper. "Where's Evelyn?" she asked, her brow furrowing with concern. "Why isn't she here?" Damien frowned, dismissing her question. "She's fine," he said, waving it off. "Don't worry about her." But in the back of his mind, a small voice questioned why Evelyn had been absent during such a critical moment. Chapter 4: The Truth Revealed. Damien returned home late that night, exhausted but relieved. As he walked into his study, a neatly folded letter with Evelyn's handwriting caught his eye on the desk. A strange sense of dread settled over him as he picked it up and unfolded it. The first line made his heart stop. "By the time you read this, I'll be gone." The letter was a confession. Evelyn had been Sophia's heart donor. She had known the risks, but her love for Damien and her desire to save Sophia had driven her to make the ultimate sacrifice. Damien's hands trembled as he read her words, her pain and love pouring off the page. "You loved her, and I loved you. This is how I could give you both what you needed," she had written. The weight of her sacrifice crushed him. Damien stormed back to the hospital, demanding answers from the doctors. When they confirmed Evelyn's decision, his world shattered. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands, overwhelmed by grief and guilt. How had he failed to see the depth of her love for him? Sophia, too, was devastated when she learned the truth. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched Damien's arm. How could she do this? Sophia asked, her voice breaking. "She didn't even let us say goodbye." Damien had no answers, only a profound sense of regret that he had dismissed Evelyn's worth until it was too late. That night, Damien visited Evelyn's grave for the first time. The sight of her name etched into the cold stone sent him to his knees. He placed his hand on the grave, his voice breaking. "I didn't deserve you," he whispered. "I didn't deserve your love. I'm so sorry, Evelyn. I was blind." Chapter 5: Redemption or Regret. In the weeks that followed, Damien was a shadow of his former self. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and couldn't forgive himself for the way he had treated Evelyn. Her absence was a void he couldn't fill, and the knowledge of her sacrifice weighed heavily on his soul. Sophia, though grateful for her second chance at life, struggled to cope with the knowledge that Evelyn's heart now beat within her chest. "Every heartbeat feels like hers," she confessed to Damien one day. "How do we live with this?" Damien had no answer, only a deep, aching guilt. Damien poured himself into creating a charity in Evelyn's name, dedicated to supporting organ donors and their families. It became his way of honoring her memory, ensuring that her selfless act would never be forgotten. But no amount of work could ease the pain in his heart or erase the regret that haunted him. As the years passed, Damien began to see Evelyn in everything around him, in the sunlight streaming through the windows, in the laughter of strangers, in the quiet moments of solitude. He realized too late that she had been the one he truly loved, the one he had never appreciated until she was gone. On the anniversary of her death, Damien stood at her grave, his voice breaking as he spoke. "You gave me everything, and I gave you nothing," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I hope you found peace, Evelyn. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness." As he walked away, he felt a bittersweet sense of closure, knowing that her love had changed him forever. Chapter 6: A Heart's Legacy. Months turned into years, but Evelyn's presence lingered in Damien's life. The charity he founded in her name became a global success, offering hope and support to countless families. Yet, the accolades and achievements did little to soothe the ache in his heart. Every time he spoke about Evelyn's sacrifice, he felt the weight of his own failures. Sophia, now fully recovered, often visited Evelyn's grave, laying fresh flowers and whispering words of gratitude. She struggled with the guilt of living because of Evelyn's ultimate sacrifice. "I owe her my life," she once said to Damien, her voice trembling. "But how do I repay a debt this large?" Damien had no answer. He felt that no gesture could ever truly honor Evelyn's love. Despite their shared grief, Damien and Sophia grew apart. What once bound them, a shared history and love, now felt like a fragile thread weighed down by sorrow and guilt. Damien found himself distancing from Sophia, unable to reconcile his lingering feelings for Evelyn with the heart she had given. One evening, Damien came across Evelyn's journal while sorting through her belongings. Each page was filled with her innermost thoughts, her love for him, her struggles, and her hopes for the future. In one entry, she had written, "I don't need him to love me back. I just want him to be happy, even if it's without me." Reading her words, Damien broke down, the realization of her unconditional love hitting him harder than ever. The journal became Damien's constant companion, a reminder of the woman he had taken for granted. Slowly, it began to guide him toward a purpose, to live a life that honored Evelyn's memory, to become a man worthy of the love she had given. Chapter 7: A Second Chance at Love. Damien's grief and guilt gradually gave way to introspection. He started therapy to confront his emotions, seeking a way to move forward while carrying Evelyn's memory. His therapist encouraged him to forgive himself, to accept that while he couldn't change the past, he could shape his future. Sophia, too, began to rebuild her life. She moved to a new city, pursuing her dream of becoming a writer. Her first book, A Borrowed Heart, became a tribute to Evelyn, a fictionalized account of her sacrifice and the lessons it imparted. "This is my way of keeping her alive," Sophia told Damien during a rare phone call. One day, while volunteering at a hospital through Evelyn's charity, Damien met Clara, a pediatric nurse with a warm smile and a kind heart. She reminded him of Evelyn in subtle ways, her selflessness, her quiet strength. Over time, their conversations grew deeper, and Damien found himself opening up in ways he hadn't thought possible. Clara, unaware of Damien's past, treated him without judgment or pity. She encouraged him to share his story, and when he finally told her about Evelyn, she listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding. "She sounds like an extraordinary woman," Clara said softly. "And I think she'd want you to find happiness." For the first time in years, Damien allowed himself to feel hope. While he knew Evelyn's place in his heart could never be replaced, he began to see the possibility of a future where love and joy could coexist with the pain of loss. Chapter 8: Closure. On the 5th anniversary of Evelyn's death, Damien organized a memorial event at the charity's headquarters. Friends, family, and supporters gathered to celebrate her life and legacy. The event featured stories from organ recipients, each one a testament to the lives Evelyn's sacrifice had saved. Damien took the stage, his voice steady but emotional. "Evelyn taught me what love truly means," he said. "It's not about possession or reciprocation, it's about giving selflessly, without expecting anything in return. Her love changed me, and I'll spend the rest of my life honoring her memory." As the crowd applauded, Damien felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. He stepped down from the stage, and Clara was there to meet him, her presence grounding him in the moment. "She'd be proud of you," Clara whispered, squeezing his hand. Later that evening, Damien visited Evelyn's grave alone. He knelt beside it, placing a single white rose on the headstone. "I'll never stop missing you," he said quietly. "But I promise to live a life that reflects the love you gave me. Thank you, Evelyn, for everything." As he walked away, Damien felt a subtle shift within himself. The pain of loss was still there, but it was now accompanied by a sense of gratitude and purpose. Evelyn's sacrifice had not only saved Sophia but had also set Damien on a path toward redemption and self-discovery. Chapter 9: The Heart Song. In time, Damien and Clara's relationship blossomed into something deeper. While their love was different from what Damien had shared with Evelyn, it was no less profound. Clara's presence brought light into his life, helping him heal while keeping Evelyn's memory alive. Sophia, too, found love again. Her second chance at life gave her the courage to open her heart to someone new, a fellow author who admired her resilience and passion. Together, they built a life filled with mutual respect and understanding, cherishing the gift Evelyn had given them. The charity continued to grow, expanding its reach and impact. Damien took comfort in knowing that Evelyn's legacy would endure, touching lives and inspiring acts of kindness long after he was gone. He often visited hospitals and spoke to patients, sharing Evelyn's story and encouraging others to embrace life fully. As the years passed, Damien reflected on the lessons he had learned from Evelyn's sacrifice. He realized that love wasn't just about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, it was about quiet strength, unwavering support, and the courage to let go when necessary. Though the ache of losing Evelyn never fully disappeared, Damien found a new kind of happiness, one rooted in gratitude, acceptance, and the belief that love, in all its forms, was the most powerful force of all. Evelyn's heart had not only given life to Sophia but had also transformed Damien, leaving an indelible mark on his soul.